That should be his comeback. I actually would be on the journey to forgiveness for Scott Rudin if he actually paid to keep A Strange Loop open for 1 extra year and sat in the audience.
You heard it
Scott
here
Rudin,
first.
You heard it here first.
Scott Rudin, balls in your court. Hello, Editing Tara here to give you an update before you listen to our new episode on A Strange Loop. I'm here to timestamp this episode. We recorded on October 4th, and sadly, on October 11th, the news broke that A Strange Loop will play its final Broadway performance on January 15th. Now, a PSA, if you are in New York, if you are headed to New York, go see this show. You definitely will not regret it. There are super affordable ways to get tickets, which you will hear later in this episode. Just do yourself a favor and go see it before it closes. And if you've already seen it, go see it again. And with that being said, enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Off to Broadway, the podcast where we deep dive into anything and everything musical theater from the comfort of my car. I'm Tara.
I'm Stefania.
And in today's episode, we're talking all about A Strange Loop. This might feel like a delayed episode because this show won Tonys months ago, but we had a predetermined schedule and this is where it fit and it's still running. So now is the time that we're going to talk about it. The other thing to mention, this might be our first explicit episode ever for audio
Music?
Listeners, because I don't know that I'll be able to cut around in the songs. You know what I mean?
We shall see. Let's find out later. Let's a surprise for the listeners.
Surprise. It's true. So we are talking about A Strange Loop because we both saw it. I saw it in May, and you saw it in July.
July.
Yeah.
End of July.
And we figured now is the perfect time to talk about it because, one, you and I have not even talked about our thoughts and feelings on this show together.
Our thoughts.
And it's not our thoughts. And it's not like we were saving it. I just think we thought that we would eventually do an episode, so we thought maybe we shouldn't discuss. And two, it's still going strong on Broadway, even though in our last episode, 2 episodes ago, the rumor was that it might be closing. There's been no update to that rumor, so it's still going. Maybe we should do a mini update. There has been a couple things that have changed since the Broadway season preview that we recorded. And I think the main one, and maybe most embarrassing one, sorry, Andrew Lloyd Webber, being that Cinderella from the West End is transferring to Broadway, but it had a name change. Now, I don't know.
I'm not your Cinderella. I'm your bad Cinderella.
And that song was always called Bad Cinderella, but maybe don't title your musical Bad Anything because you're just asking for bad reviews, you know?
It is quite bad in your title is so bizarre to put in there.
I know.
My theory that I floated to you the other day was that it's a rights issue in the States, but not in the UK or in Europe about being able to say just Cinderella. They might have to put a qualifier, Bad Cinderella. And that has many meanings, I guess.
Yes. It is playing at the Imperial. The last show that was there was Ain't Too Proud, but Great Comet was there. So we know that things can be done in that theater to maybe accommodate some of the cool set tricks that they want to do. And the other interesting thing to me was that this show was opening the day or starts previews the day before Phantom closes. So there will not be a single moment that an ALW musical is not running on Broadway.
Nope. He's got it covered. He got it covered. As soon as Phantom was closing, he's like, we gotta get Cinderella in there. We gotta get it in there.
Did anything else happen since that record? Other than, Sweeney, which we knew.
I feel so much. We tried to get Merrily off-Broadway tickets, and we didn't, so cry for us.
Tragic. I know. It was really hard. It was really hard.
I was 2,200 in line, and I felt like I was really close. There.
The thing that we forget is that a lot of those shows were sold out before it even went on sale to the general public. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were trying for those last few weeks in January because those were most available. But yeah, what we'd heard was anyone above 2,000 was not getting a ticket, and that proved true to me. So
I was at 4,000, so I definitely didn't have a chance. But I think that's it. I think that's all the information that, like, happened recently.
Joseph in Toronto, did we talk about that?
Yes, we talked about that.
Wait, and it's going to go to Broadway, allegedly?
Allegedly. But yeah, I feel like there's been, like, so much, yet I'm blanking on it right now. Oh, we saw Singing in the Rain. It was fun. It rained a lot. Actually, I just saw an interview with one of the lead guy, and he said that it's like 18 liters of water that rains, and then twice because it happens again. So they like recycle. Yeah.
It was a lot of water.
It was a lot of water.
It was a lot of water. So there was like a pool, a little like, not a pool on stage, but kind of like ridges that went up to collect the water. But then they were splashing it into the first few rows, and they provided ponchos.
He also said that apparently if you buy tickets like for those first few rows, it says like you may get wet, and he was like, not may, you will get wet. So
he was purposely, they're kicking it right to those first few rows. No, I think that was probably the highlight of the show, that like closing act 1 number, Singing in the Rain.
And I mean, hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I will have seen Into the Woods, so maybe we'll do an episode. And maybe, fingers crossed, Almost Famous. I don't know. It's looking like hard to see if I'm going to get tickets to that. But shout out to Jordan Catalano, who writes on the Broadway World boards. I always read his reviews, and he said at intermission that this might be the best musical that he's seen in years. And then after the show said it's a perfect musical.
It's a perfect musical. You know what actually I haven't talked about? The Notebook.
Oh my God, The Notebook. Okay, we'll get to A Strange Loop in a second. We need to talk about The Notebook. So The Notebook, when does this episode come out? October 17th. So The Notebook extended because the last time we recorded, we weren't going to be able to see The Notebook. We're still not going to be able to see The Notebook. But like, it did extend to October 30th. So if you are in the Chicago area, run to see it. Because 1, go look at those production photos. Absolutely stunning. And then 2, read the Broadway World boards, because this is where we got the intel that it's actually incredible and that it's ready for Broadway like immediately.
So what I've heard, the music is obviously beautiful, like Ingrid Michaelson music, but I've heard the book is really good, which is always like really the weak point of a show. But hearing that the book is really good, like, it makes me so excited. And then what did someone say that it had like Bridges and Next to Normal energy? And those are perfect shows to me. Well, Bridges is not a perfect show, but
you said though that it had Bridges energy like on our season preview episode, and then that's when I read the review that said it was like Bridges and meets Next to Normal, which sounds, that music is so good. And then thinking of Next to Normal and like the devastation of that story, I have heard this is not like a fun time at the theater. Like, you will cry. Okay. Sure. And that the exploration
I've read a Nicholas Sparks novel before.
I know. But that the like exploration and detailed like storytelling of dementia is really great.
Wow.
And anybody that like knows someone that's gone through that, like, it's very hard hitting. So I don't know, like, if this goes to Broadway, I mean, now that we don't have Merrily tickets for January, maybe we like push this to a spring trip, hoping that The Notebook opens before April,
We need to monitor what's opening, what's closing, we have to see. Yeah. It's crazy. It's too much stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about A Strange Loop. What did you know about A Strange Loop before you saw it, I guess is the best way to say it.
So I would say for me, I knew of it probably from its off-Broadway production. I hadn't listened to music, but I knew of it, and I knew there was like buzz around it. March 2020 happens, and then that next Pulitzer Prize winners are announced, and it's announced A Strange Loop wins the 2020 Pulitzer Prize for Drama, which is one of, I think, 10 musicals to have done it. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need to listen to this cast recording. So I think it's like May 2020. I'm outside in my backyard, got my headphones in my laptop, and I'm listening fully through to this cast recording for the first time. And it kind of became like a mainstay for that year. of cast recordings. I have some favorite songs and songs that are like skips or whatever, but I do think it's like a really, really great cast recording. And it just kind of became something I was excited to see. And, you know, it was the pandemic, so we didn't know when the next production was going to be. But obviously, and there was a production announced that obviously had to be canceled, and then it went to DC, and then when it went to New York, I was like, okay, hopefully I'll get to see it when it's on Broadway before it closes and before it has like a different life.
The reason that I listened to the cast recording is because you told me about the song periodically, which we'll get to songs later, but that is the reason that I listened to the cast recording. I remember I knew about the off-Broadway production because I want to say at the time when Wesley Taylor still had social media, he tweeted, Instagrammed, being like, this show is incredible. Everyone needs to see it. I feel like he was with Alex Wise. And then similarly, like Alex Boniello did the exact same thing. So it's like, okay, so like a lot of people in the industry are going to see this off Broadway. This is obviously something very special. And then I remember listening to it, and I mean, it's a very explicit cast recording. So like, don't expect, I don't know, like upbeat, super happy music the whole way through, because like that's not what you're gonna get with that. And so when I listened to it the first time, I was like, oh, I don't know what I think about this. And then when we talked to Britta Johnson, she had said that she was listening to it and that her favorite song was Inner White Girl. And I was like, okay, so like everyone is kind of like listening to this.
It's also a show that we talked about with Patrick Flynn of the original cast when he came on summer 2020. We did our title songs, and that was one of his favorite title songs. And I've even listened to episodes on his podcast talking about A Strange Loop, and talking about it right after it won the Pulitzer Prize. So like the theater industry, I think, was like very excited for this show and was really excited to like lift it up and to see it and for more people to see it. So it was something that that was a very unique experience actually the past two and a half years of buzz getting to build for shows before we were able to see them. And that was something that definitely I think happened with me for A Strange Loop, like knowing about it, listening to the cast recording, and like letting it fester in me before I was finally able to get to see it. So you went with, when I saw it alone, actually. I was in New York with my parents, and I said, I'll go see this by myself. I don't know if this is for you. And you guys can go see something else. And actually, it was funny. I've talked about this before, but before I waited, my parents' show was at 2, so when I was at 3, so I hung out in the drama bookshop, and I was like chatting with other theater goers, and we were talking about what matinees we were seeing, and another one was also seeing A Strange Loop, also going by themselves. And everyone, when the other people heard that I was seeing, they're like, that's great, you'll love it so much. And my experience with it, I mean, many things, but a really full audience. I bought my tickets on TKTS, like discounted, so it wasn't a full price sold out show, but the theater felt really full. I would say the demographic was a lot of Black people, African American audience goers, which is not always the audience you'll see on Broadway. And I felt they were extremely like responsive and excited, like the entire audience, to what we were seeing on stage. It felt like a high energy audience, especially for a Sunday matinee. My like complaint about it was that it started 20 minutes late and I had a flight to catch. So that's a whole other situation.
It was a cast change. It was a last minute.
It was a cast change.
It happened.
Like 4 people were out. 4 of 7 people were out.
Yeah, I feel like that show. Okay, so I saw it. I can't remember like what show it was in my weekend. I want to say 3, 2, I think 3. With my brothers. This was their favorite show of the trip that we saw. And I think it's kind of interesting to talk about the theater experience, because I would say that the audience that was at MJ is a very similar audience that was at A Strange Loop, including, you know, the people that think that they're there to see the Michael Jackson musical because it's written by Michael R. Jackson.
Written by Michael R. Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So like, it did not happen in my theater, but if you follow A Strange Loop on Twitter, it's happened many times when there are theater goers that are disappointed that they're not seeing the Michael Jackson musical and want their money back. Sorry, you should have read the actual signage when you walked in the theater. But yeah, I think it's interesting because though I saw those 2 shows like kind of back to back, and the audience was was very similar. I would say that the A Strange Loop audience was a bit younger than the MJ audience.
Okay.
And I don't know that the audience was as receptive as yours was. There wasn't any like hesitation from the audience, but there wasn't like booming applause or cheers as much as I think you got, which you saw this post Tonys.
A lot of gasps. I did see a post Tonys.
Yeah.
I saw it, I guess, 2 months after. A lot of gasping in my audience.
Yeah.
You know?
Which, like,
the first
wasn't
time
the case.
The first time they say Scott Rudin, the audience really was like,
yeah.
It was fun.
Before we get into our thoughts on the show, I think it's important to talk about, like, the timeline that this happened, because obviously won the Pulitzer Prize in 2020, and then also in 2020 was, I would say, like, one of the biggest movements for Black Lives Matter that we've had in ever. And I think it also showed there was like an awakening for the theater community, and this is obviously when like a lot of the Scott Rudin stuff came to light. There was a lot of people that came out and spoke about their experience being an actor on Broadway and not getting certain roles. There was a lot of like information out there that wasn't previously public that became public, and then when this was announced, it was like finally something that the Black community had been waiting for, and then at the same time that the Black actors on Broadway had been waiting for. And
sure, a completely Black cast in this show, which is very rare.
And, you know, writer, also a queer Black man. Like, there was so much going for this, which, as you were saying, like, the momentum really built during the pandemic, but there was also that, like, awakening of, no, we can't continue to produce The Music Man on Broadway. Oh my God, that's something that happened. The Music Man is closing.
Wow.
And so is Beetlejuice. Those were two things that happened. But
you're right. Okay.
To bring in The Music Man and, like, you know, Scott Rudin attached to The Music Man, maybe not like a public face of it, but like he's still attached to it. So he's
still making money from it.
To think that on whatever street The Music Man is playing, and then like 3 blocks over, a show talking about like Scott Rudin in a completely different manner is also playing. Like, the thing that stands out to me the most is what you said as soon as you saw it, with like, I love that this is on Broadway, but at the same time, as you were sitting in the theater, you're like, I cannot believe that this is on Broadway, because it just doesn't fit the, in quotations, like the mold that Broadway created. And I think that this show is obviously like breaking that mold and showing what we can do in the future.
Absolutely. Like, the whole time I was in there, I was like, I can't believe this is in the same venue as Chicago. You know, I can't believe there's a bucket of Broadway shows, and A Strange Loop and The Music Man are considered like the same genre. They're so vastly different. I have like so many things that I was thinking of when you were talking, like in response to what you were saying. One thing that I absolutely love about this show is that it's so specific. It is obviously about a Black man. It is written by a Black man. But it is not attempting to represent every Black man ever. It is attempting to represent this one specific Black man's experience, Usher's experience. And I saw an interview with Michael R. Jackson. He said it's not autobiographical, it's self-referential. It's not exact specific things that happened to him, that happened in his life, but it is about his experience, like, moving through the world, and kind of reflects on that. And so many times when you have something that stars a specific race or a specific gender, it's given the burden of representing every person from that community or group, and this show has like divested itself of that responsibility and is able to be so specific to this one person, Usher's experience, that it almost becomes universal. It represents so many more people than it could have. And it just, I felt so much joy watching it, especially like, and everyone around me, I think, was having a wonderful time. Obviously it gets like quite dark, but I felt so much joy in getting to like see this story on stage. And I was just like, the whole time I was so excited. It was wonderful.
It's interesting because obviously we come at this as like at a completely different perspective than anyone else. We are women. We are white women. And
we are the inner white girl.
We are the inner white girl. Exactly. And I talked to a few people that I know that saw it. And one person said he's openly gay with a partner, and he saw A Strange Loop because it was actually off of my recommendation, because I was like, you better see it now before it wins the Tonys, and then you can't get a ticket. And he saw it, and when I talked to him, he was like, I liked it, but as like an openly gay man, there are many scenes in this show that like hit too close to home. So wow. I can't relate to that. You can't relate to that. We can relate to like other aspects of that show, but there is something so, as you said, like specific that like you can pick and choose pieces of what you can relate to. But I don't know. I never thought, like, I obviously can appreciate and understand that like the last 20 minutes of that show are quite heavy. But I don't feel the things that like an openly gay man would feel, because how can I? So it was interesting to get that perspective of like, I liked it but didn't love it because it was difficult to watch.
No, for sure. Yeah, we're able to have some like remove from the situation or from the storyline or perspective. It doesn't hit as close to home as it does for other people. Yeah. So there's like an objectivity that we can have, and where we can like feel those feelings, because then we get to like shed them at the end.
Right.
And that's like one of the great things I think about theater, is that you get to go into a theater and you get to like emote with the people on stage and like be in their mind space or headspace, and then you get to walk out of the theater and kind of like leave them behind a little bit. But yeah, because it's so specific, I can see it hitting like so much harder to people who are relating to those specific scenarios. Yeah. But there were some things that to it, it was extremely specific, but there were other like themes like parental expectations, or your own expectations, or, working in a job
even
that
just
is
like
not your fulfilling life dream.
Yeah. And also like the whole religious side of it. Like you might not be living like a certain, the exact same situation as Usher, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate to like the religious aspect and like the disowning of their family because of religion. So that's also something that I don't think is explored a lot in theater in general, is like the other side of religion. I guess, and I feel like this is a loaded question, but like, what did you think of the show as an overall?
That is quite a loaded question. It's hard to like put into words, or hard to
also like, sorry, I feel like for anyone that doesn't know what A Strange Loop is, right, we completely like glossed over that.
Well, that's true. What would be our 30-second summary? It's about a musical theater writer, a black gay musical theater writer named Usher, who works as an usher at the Lion King while he tries to fulfill his dream of writing a musical. And I found it about being a black gay musical theater writer working at the Lion King.
And so on and so forth.
It's a strange loop. It's a loop. And it also, I feel, kind of loops with Michael R. Jackson, who worked as an usher, who was writing a musical about a black gay queer while being a black gay queer musical theater writer. Anyway, the way that this musical is staged, it's like you're watching Usher write the musical in real time on stage. Yes. He's saying, is this how I end it? And now I end it like this. But the audience doesn't want that. And he's like having a conversation with himself and with the audience about the structure and of the writing of the musical. And so you kind of get brought along this journey of the writing, which I thought was like a really clever like construct, because you're watching a musical about a writer and you're being like brought in as like a collaborator in his process as the audience. And so I love that element of it.
I agree. I think the writing aspect is very interesting, because I also, and it's in the cast recording too, but like he asks, can I really write this? And I think that's something that we're all thinking at some point during the show. I also think that this is an interesting like cast recording to stage. Like if you listen to the cast recording first and only listen to the cast recording, you don't get the full picture of what's happening in the musical. And I was surprised by that, because for some reason I thought that this was it. But there's
I thought it
actually
was
a
much
lot
more
more
minimally
dialogue.
staged. I thought it was much more minimally staged than it ended up being.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What did you think? What did you picture?
I didn't. No, I knew about like the doors, I guess, but I just didn't get. I didn't expect the stage to like open up in the way it did.
Right. Well,
and the amount of set changes, let's say. Yeah, but it kind of opens up as the show goes on. It starts quite forward, let's say, with like the doors at the back, and then they move further back, and things open up, and then the whole stage opens up.
The other thing that I will say about this is that there is really only 7 people in that cast, and they never leave the stage. Basically, there's like a few
Usher,
of the thoughts
especially.
that like Usher's there the whole time, but like I also feel like a lot of the thoughts are there majority of that show. So both you and I did not see Jaquel Spivey, who is still playing the role of Usher, nominated for a Tony. We saw Kyle Raymer Freeman, who I think we both agree that he doesn't have the like innocence of a younger face per se like Jaquel does, but vocally, oh my god,
Vocally a star, absolutely. He sounded amazing. He's
so good.
He sounded amazing.
Yeah. So that's also something, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, but specifically for a show like that, if you are not seeing the lead, if you were seeing an understudy, it's not like you're not going to get the highest caliber of performance, because I would never know that he wasn't the star of this show, like if I hadn't, if I didn't know. Like I'm sure there are people in the audience that don't know the same stuff that we do, and as we were walking out, I heard people say like his vocals, his like performance, everything. So, and that goes for the thoughts too. There are so many like interchangeable, which is crazy to me, that like everybody can play basically all 6 parts. And there are so many understudies. And the other thing too about that is the casting of the thoughts. Like there is no like gender casting. First openly trans actor in this show, many non-binary understudies. All of the thoughts are kind of like genderless, and I don't know. I just think that like this
play
show,
characters of different genders at different moments in the show.
Yeah, like this show did so much, but at the same time, it didn't feel like it was too much. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas sometimes we're like complaining about other shows and like how they're trying to like throw every single topic at you, and it feels overwhelming and doesn't make sense and ends up tonally like not being my favorite. Whereas this is like, we stuck to the story, but so much is going on in this story that I don't know. It's just like, it's interesting. It's honestly hard to like describe this show.
It had a singular focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't, nothing that was done in any way felt like superfluous. Everything was very intentional and added to the story. And every set change, every costume change, but every like song, every line said by every thought or character felt like so intentional and like moved it forward. There was no like fat to cut in this show, which is crazy.
And speaking of that, it's 90 minutes, no intermission. So
praise. Like, can I talk about my stress actually? So I saw it. So basically I saw it on a Sunday matinee. It was at 3:00. And my flight was at like 8 p.m. On Sunday night. And I sent my parents to a different show. They were at the play that goes wrong, which is like 2 hours with intermission. It started at 2. So they were going to be done at 4. And I'm like, my show starts at 3:00. It's 90 minutes. So I'll be done at 4:30, and it was 6 minutes from hotel. I'll like race back. Okay.
Yeah.
This show doesn't start till 3:20, so I'm panicking.
You were texting me. I literally remember this so clearly. I was walking around Winners, and I was like texting you, and you were like, "It hasn't started." I'm like, "You're gonna miss your flight. Like, you're gonna miss the flight."
It hasn't started. So my parents are like, I told them, I texted them. I was like, "The show's starting late. Like, don't worry about me," because I couldn't text them during the show because there's no intermission. I couldn't like keep them updated.
Yeah.
The show's starting late. Don't worry about me. I'll text you when it's over. They're like, okay. They were already stressed. About this.
Me too. I was also stressed.
You're stressed. So after the show's over, normally I like to stay till the end of that end of like the orchestra playing. I was the first person out of the theater. I was the first person out. The band is still playing. I'm down the street. I am down the street. You know, I applauded. I didn't leave early. I applauded. Like the cast was off stage, but
curtain call
I was
happened.
down the street. The curtain call happened. I was down the street. The band is still playing. I'm at the corner. I saw Rachel Dratch on the way home, like leaving the POTUS stage door. And I get to the hotel within 6 minutes. I was texting my parents. I'm like, I'm coming. I'm on the way. They had just lost a taxi though. They had a taxi waiting and they couldn't wait long enough and we had to get a new taxi. So whatever. My dad was like, if we miss our flights, you have to pay for the difference. I'm like, okay. We didn't miss our flights. It was fine. It was fine. But it was quite stressful. They started 20 minutes late. And I think the reason they started 20 minutes late is because 5 minutes before they actually started, they came over the microphone, the announcer, and said the role normally played by Jaquel Spivey will now be played by Cameron Freeman. And because I thought I was seeing Jaquel, I was like, oh my God, he's in. It's a matinee. This is crazy. No, I did not. Which is fine, but I really thought it was happening, and it wasn't happening.
Yeah. I want to talk about the schedule in a second, but back to the 90 minutes. We always appreciate a 90-minute, no intermission.
Yes.
But
editing.
When I was talking to this person about seeing A Strange Loop, he was like, I would have preferred an intermission so I could have like decompressed during intermission. I was like, interesting. So this is just another point of like, we don't have the same perspective as other people do. And I don't know where the intermission point would be, because I feel like as you get to that like middle chunk of the show, you're kind of like on that journey until the end, and there's no break point, because you almost want, and I wonder if this was intentional to not have an intermission break.
Yeah.
It's very tense towards the end, and I feel like breaking that, you would lose a bit of focus, and you would also lose a bit of the audience and their reaction, I feel.
Yeah, you know, he's saying he wanted a bit to take a break. I don't think they want you to take that break. I think they want you to like be worked up throughout the whole thing. So like the like end hits harder because you haven't had a moment to like step away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's interesting. But back to the schedule. I don't think there is a schedule right now, as far as I
don't think there's a pre-announced one. I don't think there's a pre-announced one.
It seems that Jaquel does not do whatever the matinee is. Wednesday? And Saturday,
Sunday.
And
he doesn't
Sunday.
do 2 show days. Is that the rumor? He doesn't do 2 show days?
I think the rumor is that he doesn't do 2 show days. And again, this is fine. But I don't know if we talked about this on an episode. Maybe we did, but we've definitely talked about this in person. But that role is so grueling. I would compare it to like an Evan Hansen, where again, like Evan doesn't leave the stage for the entire time, except for intermission, because there is one there. And you are like going through all of the emotions, so there is no time for like that actor to decompress, and then at the same time you are like singing your face off on all of these songs, and the character is, as stated in the song, like fat, so he is a bigger guy, and this is a lot more of an extreme than like
he's sweating.
Yeah, like than the like people that are playing Evan, who are typically like very thin guys that are just like running around. So it's already like an added element, plus like all of the songs that you're singing. You never leave the stage. I feel there should be a schedule, because there's no harm in a schedule. That no one's like upset about this. I just think that it's like nicer to know, so that things don't happen like when you're sitting waiting for a show to start for 20 minutes because they have to do a cast change at the last minute, you know?
I do think shows should be less ashamed of doing a schedule, especially and also transitioning to do a schedule. You know, realizing, you know, we thought we could do 8 performances a week. What's actually shaken out is that 8 performances a week is not sustainable. And I think even the actors might appreciate knowing, you know what, I only have to do 1 show this day. I don't have to like call out. I don't have to like burden my understudy last minute. Maybe it's not as last minute as we think. But you know, knowing, okay, I can like mentally prepare myself, physically prepare myself to do like, let's say 6 shows a week. And then it might even relieve some of the stress of doing the role if you know exactly when you have to do it and when you don't.
No, I 100% agree. And I think the first time we ever saw this was, again, with, like, Dear Evan Hansen. Obviously, Ben Platt was the first person to leave that 8-show schedule to do the 6 because vocally it was, like, literally damaging his voice.
Well, like, Phantom of the Opera, it's always been, for Christine, it's been 6 for forever. Yes.
And any celebrity that walks in, there's always a schedule. Lea Michele does not perform on Thursdays. It is a known fact. And I do think that, like...
And I think that's good, because Beanie was calling out because it was hard on her.
Yes.
Bette Midler didn't do Tuesdays, okay?
No, she
Donna
didn't.
Murphy did. Donna Murphy did Tuesdays.
And here's the thing. That's a perfect example of that, because there are some people that are like, I already saw Bette. I want to see Donna. So, like, maybe you already saw Jaquel and you want to see an understudy. This is your opportunity.
It creates a moment. It creates a moment for the other person.
Yeah, so I agree. We need to, like, stop this stigma around schedules, whether there is one or not. It feels like it to the public, so they should just, like, end that.
Formalize
this is also, like, a PSA for Anne Juliet. Juliet needs a schedule, guys. We can't have her go on 8 times a week.
It's hard. It's a lot of singing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you can adjust to a schedule. You can try out 8 shows a week, and then you can say, you know what, that didn't work for us. And add one later.
It's fine.
There's no shame.
Okay, let's get into music.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I know your favorite song pre-seeing it, but is it the same song post-seeing it?
That's really hard. So when I got my program, I, like, looked in my slips, right? And I was like, the only person I'd be, like, really upset not to see is John Andrew Morrison, who was nominated for a Tony and who has been with the show for a really long time, and kind of gets, like, his, like, star-making moment as Usher's mother, singing the song periodically. And that is my favorite song on the cast recording. I think it's, like, stunning, gorgeous, and heartbreaking and devastating all at once. Like, as a mother who is saying all these things, like, out of love, who thinks they're speaking from love for their child, but is actually, like, hurting their child with those words, and then she's saying these things to him, and then he starts to sing along with her because he has internalized those things that he's always said to her. Devastating. And I think it works so well on stage.
I was going to say, I would say that, like, you don't get the full gist of the devastation just through the cast recording. This song took on, like, a completely different meaning for me when I saw it on stage. I was like, oh, this is heartbreaking. Yeah,
it's like she's telling him, like, I believe you are going to hell. And he is, like, repeating that, singing that along with her because he has heard it over and over again his entire life that, he is going to hell. And it is just, like, his mantra in his mind. So I really think, like, it worked amazingly on stage. Another one I loved, like, that has become a fave since, like, it's always been great, but has become a fave since I saw it, is Inner White Girl. This is a party song to me. I bop to it. Is it a song for bopping? I don't know, but I bopped to Inner White Girl. Because maybe it's too relatable. Maybe it's relatable to me.
I know. Yeah. No, it's true. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I had a favorite song, like, going into the show, but, and this is, like, a real downer, but Memory Song is stunning. And I feel like the staging of this was amazing. It's literally, like, just Usher on stage, and I think, like, John Andrew Morrison is there no longer, like, as his mother, but, like, still looming. And it just was it was sung so beautifully, and then just, like, I've heard Michael R. Jackson talk about the song and how much he loves it. I think it's in the Tiny Desk when they talk about Memory Song.
That's a great Tiny Desk, actually.
Oh, so good. That Tiny Desk is amazing. And I just feel like a lot of people can relate to Memory Song, but I don't know. I just love the way that it was done on stage, so simplistic, yet, like, hauntingly beautiful and devastating at the same time. Surprises. AIDS is God's punishment.
I screamed.
I don't want to say what happens because for anyone that's going to see it, it's truly, like, jaw on the floor, shocked. But at that point, I was like, this stage is massive. Like, I didn't even realize how big the stage was.
Yeah, like, again, not to, like, give everything away, but I was like, oh, it's so odd. I mean, not that all sets go all the way to the top, but it felt like it's so odd because they were kind of, like, blocking, if you're sitting too high up, the top was kind of, like, let's say, blocking the view of the back, and I was like, is there nothing in there? But then there was something in there.
There's something
like,
in there.
Like, it opens up.
There's something
and also,
major
like,
in there.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Yeah, that was
also,
crazy. What's the song where like Elle Morgan Lee is Whitney Houston? Which one is that?
Oh my god,
because that was a fave to me.
I thought it was Exile on Gayville, but I actually don't think it is.
It might be. Okay, let me read the summary for a second.
While you read the summary, just another thing on AIDS is God's punishment. There is so much happening on stage that you're trying to focus on like one specific thing, but you obviously can't because there are so many different aspects going on. And then on top of this, you have whoever's playing Usher like riffing the hell out of that song. I was floored. It was so good. Maybe that's my favorite, but like it's also controversially my favorite. But like, no. You know,
AIDS is God's punishment was the moment of the show.
And then like, when we came back,
was the moment.
Every so often, you and I, whenever we're in the car, we're just like, AIDS is God's punishment. Why? I don't know, because it's just like in my mind.
It was great. No, it was great. So where everyone comes out like as the celebrities or like Harriet Tubman, 12 Years a Slave. It's Tyler Perry Writes Real Life, which is also funny. That also cracked me up. Who is it? Which actor is it?
Oh my god, he's so good.
John Michael Lyles, who comes out as his agent, and he's like trying to like talk about. They're doing the phone call, and he's like, "I know you hate him," or whatever he said. He's like choreographing. I know you think he sucks, but he's like.
He to me was like. Me up. Standout of the thoughts, because sometimes on the cast recording it's hard to tell which thought is singing which part because most of the time they're all in the songs, but I wasn't sure because as you said, John Andrew Morrison nominated for a Tony, also Elle Morgan Lee nominated for a Tony, and I was like, what does she sing? I'm not 100% sure what she sings, but she sings that
right a sympathetic ear,
something wicked. Yeah, that's the song she sings, but then she also has these like other incredible moments in the background of songs when she's always doing like the high harmony. I'm like, yes, girl. But he is so good, and his acting so funny. Presence. There's also a moment.
He's also so small. He's like the smallest of them. So like so stands out in that way.
You know who he is if you see it. He's wearing like the cropped, like the most cropped crop top. And he's the smallest one there. But there's also a moment, doesn't he have like a gun of money? And he's like throwing money?
That's possible, but I don't recall that.
I don't remember. There was also a moment in AIDS is God's Punishment when like he's doing something vocally and he's like jumping up and down on the stage. I was only watching him for like a good 2 minutes of that song. Like I also feel like you have so much creative freedom as the thoughts, certain times, obviously. But it must be fun to play because if you're all taking on like a different character, even if you're an understudy stepping in for one night, like you are, as they say, is it the first song when they like discuss who they are? Like there's self-loathing, there's like so many different things. Yeah. Right. So it must be like super fun to like take on those roles and basically like harass your main character the entire night.
I agree. It's something that's actually like very like controlled and choreographed because they all have to be in very specific spots for the things, but it also feels very much like each of the thoughts are allowed to have their own personalities, and like we're assuming anyway that they're bringing themselves to that different thought.
I
so
also
it'd be
like
to see. So I saw 2 understudies and it was fun to like see them slot in, but I like seeing it again, it would be fun to see him like kind of rearrange the thoughts and see how if it came across as different or if it felt different. Yeah.
I also like the way that they interact with each other. I don't know. It's just super fun. The other thing that's like interesting about this story, and I would say these are like probably the skip songs for me, is like the sexual marketplace for Usher as stated in one of the songs.
Recording. It's just too uncomfortable to listen to.
And I think that's the point, is that for us, like, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable, and for other people, like, they've probably had a very similar experience to that, or they're like currently living that experience. But I thought that they did like an interesting staging for some of those scenes. The sex scene, which is quite graphic when you're listening to it on the cast recording, is like just as graphic on stage. And I don't know why I wasn't expecting it to be that way, but I also think at the same time that it's important that it was that way, because it kind of like puts that whole like Usher's I don't know, into
leaves
perspective.
Feeling uncomfortable, and like I don't know, he doesn't leave that feeling positive, and like you as an audience member also leave that interaction feeling like a little
I just feel like you just feel so I feel so bad for Usher at so many points in this show. And I don't know if that's the point, but maybe it's like one of the points. Like, are we supposed to be sympathetic to him the whole way through, or are we supposed to like challenge what he's thinking? I don't know.
I don't know either. I think sometimes maybe, and maybe I'm off base on this, but I think obviously he is facing these hardships, but it's also like your mind, or it's like we're delving into his like mind and how he's feeling about himself, and maybe it's like you're seeing how, like, you know, his self-loathing, like how he treats himself on the inside, and it maybe makes you examine like, how do I treat myself in my mind? How am I thinking about myself? Versus like how other people are seeing me. Like, what am I internalizing that I shouldn't be, and what am I always like dwelling on or focusing on that's like negative or not? I don't know. That's not a fully formed thought at this point.
No,
but...
I know. I feel like most of this episode is like, is this right? I'm not sure if this is right, but I think that that's important. And the most important thing of this show is
conversation.
That, exactly. Yeah. It leaves you with questions. It leaves you wanting to like talk about it, which I think is important.
Yeah, I've definitely talked about it, trying to explain it to people. It's a hard one to recommend. I thought it was fantastic, wonderful, but at the same time, it's like, would you recommend this to specific people only?
No,
like,
I know.
This is not a recommend to everyone.
No. I mean, you didn't go with your parents.
No. Before I even saw it, I was like, I will be going alone. Thank you.
And when I talked to my parents about it, I said, like, I would not see this with you. Like, I saw it with the two right people to see it with, and that's it. Like, I wouldn't... Yeah. This isn't a family affair kind of a show.
No, it's not.
Even though he is an usher for the Lion King.
For the Lion
You're
King.
Not seeing the Lion King.
I did walk out, so I was like rushing back to my hotel. I walked out of the theater and I had to walk under
the Minskoff?
Under the Minskoff like driveway area, and I was like, wow, this is too much. This is too much.
I am living my own strange loop right now.
Is like,
basically what
the Lion King. Is Usher here? Is he here?
I mean, I guess this leads directly into my next question of what is its life on Broadway, do you think?
That is a really great question. So it has been like pretty consistently on TKTS and like a fairly easy rush, I've heard.
Yeah, they just actually like in the last couple of months, they have a digital rush through Telecharge. And
oh, really? That's great.
Funnily enough, because I just signed up for the Telecharge like lottery today, at 6:00, the show started at 8 tonight. I looked to see if there was any digital rush available, and there was. So this was like 2 hours to curtain. I think it was like a partial view in a box seat, but the digital rush is $55. And honestly, maybe some other shows should take note on this digital rush, because
just give your unsold tickets at the end. I think I paid around $61.
We paid
for back mez,
and we paid $79 for like front orchestra but side. So it was like slightly obstructed. The only thing that was like really obstructed is the thoughts are all in neon doors. Is that the best way to describe that? Or like door frames, I guess. And
they don't like open or close. They're just frames.
Were obstructed to like the furthest to the left. But they don't spend all of the time in there.
Enter and exit in there.
Yes. And then there was like another scene when he's doing the when he's dressed as like the priest and talking to his family when they're like in the house. that like we missed an entrance type thing. There was a laugh. I don't know what the character was wearing.
It was giving sitcom. It was giving
we missed that moment.
The Cosby Show situation.
But I would say like the majority of that show takes place like in the middle.
Right.
So if you do get a partial view seat, it's not like you're obstructed for the entire show. But
you're not missing tap dancing in the back corners or anything.
Yes. Before we get into the life, I do want to point out, because I think there was like a lot of negativity around the sound in the Lyceum, and I don't think it exists. And maybe things were like worked out like post previews, but like it sounds fine in there. And if that's the reason that you're not going to the show, like don't listen to that.
You're right. We'd heard a lot about the like bad sound mixing. It was I agree. It was fine for me. I would say the one moment was that opening number, intermission song, when there's 7 people saying different things at different times.
Totally.
And they're not harmonizing, they're all doing something different, and that was like a little bit like overwhelming, but probably
again
intentionally.
I think it's on purpose. Yes.
Yeah, you're just like usher, like all.
It's the like oh my god, that moment. Yes.
Yeah, it's like very like cacophonous in that moment, on purpose. But the sound mixing for me was okay at the back of the Mez 3 months ago. So
yeah.
You know, a note. Yeah, life on Broadway here. This is not a show that's going to run forever.
No.
I think already it's had an extremely successful run that it could be proud of.
Oh, for sure. I wonder, and I don't know if we have this information out yet. I haven't like looked up to see, but like, have they recouped?
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard if they've recouped. I don't think it's a very expensive show to run. Not a very big cast. No. There is like a bit of a set, but not like, it's not insane.
And the band isn't huge
seems
either.
Seems small. Wait, I can look up how big the band is here. But yeah, it's just like a band. It's not like an orchestra or anything. So it doesn't seem like it's super expensive to run. Oh, it says orchestra. Let's see. Music keyboard director, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. 6 people.
Oh, that's it. Wow.
So,
very small.
Yeah. So quite small. So it doesn't seem like it's super expensive to run, which always can extend. And like, do we think people want the Lyceum? The Lyceum's a small-ish house, so it doesn't need to like sell like 2,000 tickets a week to be profitable.
Yeah.
Like, it's under 1,000, I think. So like, it's pretty good. My prediction is going to be it closes in the spring. Like,
I think that's fair.
Post Tony's moment.
So like
it's gonna last through the winter. But
almost a year, or not even a year.
About a year. About a year, maybe a little more than a year. That would be my prediction.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
I know January does seem to be like the death month of all of the shows. So
the one reason I would say that is because like that January to March period is a really hard sell. Like not a lot of tourists are coming,
and it's already a hard sell.
Yeah. So your market is like really depleting in those months, and a lot of shows will close instead of trying to weather those months. So I think it could go either way there, but I think like a year-long run or a 9-month-long run is like a really amazing run for a show like this. And then we've said this before, I can't wait to see original production of this show.
Oh my god, I know.
A sensitively done, respectful regional production.
Yes. Do not license this show if you are an all-white school. Like, just don't do it.
I mean, I'm not seeing it being done in high schools or anything. I could see
but like
universities, could. But not high school. I like, as a Toronto theater goer, I want to see Obsidian Theatre do something really great with this show. They've had wonderful productions. Obviously, the last thing we saw was like Carolina Change, but they had like a great productions of like Passing Strange. Like, I want to see them like to get a hold of this show and do something really exciting. I can't wait.
No, I agree. I think they should be proud of any run that they had on Broadway, because again, like this, it seems like the little show that could, yet by doing what it did, it kind of reinvented what theater could be, which I think is really exciting. And I think a lot of things are being like tried now that maybe were afraid to be tried before.
It is the opposite of commercial.
Oh my god.
But it is kind of commercial, but it's
in a different way.
Anti-commercial.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And yeah, I think we say this a lot, but to me, this is like an off-Broadway made show that obviously ended up on Broadway. So like maybe in a few years from now, like they will go back to off-Broadway, have a life. Like look at Kinky Boots right now. They are having a major life off-Broadway.
That's a crowd pleaser. I don't know.
It's a crowd pleaser, but I think that this like is prestigious enough that it's like, oh, I want to see this in a small space. Yeah,
an intimate
with
space,
like,
for sure.
With like a close group of people type thing. Like I'm not running to tell
for sure.
like a grandparent to go see this. Like you want to see this with like someone that you like care to see it with. So for that, I think, as you said, it's like kind of a hard to recommend show, but I do think that it should be seen. And if you're like, again, questioning whether or not you should go see it, just go see it and then like form your own opinions on it.
One thing I didn't talk about, I feel like it would be remiss if we didn't mention this. Larry Owens, who was on the recording.
Yes.
I just love him, and I don't really have anything interesting to say. I just love him on this cast recording. There's 2 cast recordings, the original one and then the Broadway cast recording. And it's that original one that like made me like fall in love with the show that I was listening to for years before I saw it. And so it's Larry Owens' voice that I hear singing these songs for the most part, even after hearing Jaquel on the new cast recording and Kyle in person. Like, it's Larry Owens' voice and performance on these songs that, like, will stay with me, I think, forever.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I love Larry Owens' voice, too. I think it's unmatched. And he also has like a different sense of innocence. Jaquel is obviously younger. He's like 23. So
Crazy.
Fits kind of like the correct age range for this character. But Larry Owens is like, he's the best. And I want to see him in something because I feel like this should have been the opportunity, but obviously like life went on. The time maybe wasn't right. Like it was just it took time to get there, and he had been attached to this project for so many years before Broadway was even in the question. So I do want to see him in something. A couple more things before we like wrap up a Strange Loop portion. We also did not mention that, no, this is not autobiographical, but yes, Michael R. Jackson has been working on this musical for like 20 years. So this is not like he wrote this, he got lucky. I mean, winning a Pulitzer Prize is, I would say, like, not lucky, but like you're very talented at what you do.
Absolutely.
But it's not like he wrote this one in 2018, submitted it in 2019, won the Pulitzer Prize in 2020, and then won Best Book at the Tonys in 2022. No, this was like many, many, many years in the making. So it also seems right that it did get all of this recognition because of how long it took to get here.
It's hard to follow up a project like that, one that you've spent your entire life writing, and then your next thing.
And he is.
Well, you got to follow it up.
So
what's his next work?
I think like recently announced, Michael R. Jackson's next musical is called White Girl in Danger, and it is set to begin previews at the Tony Kaiser Theater on March 15th next year. And you went to the Tony Kaiser Theater recently.
I did go to the Tony Kaiser Theater, seeing something, I think, very similar to
Between the Lines and this White Girl in Danger sounds basically the same.
No, my final thought, I would say, is that I was just so happy that it's on Broadway. I think we've said that this whole time. But every time you see something that's, like, truly original and different from anything you've ever seen before, it just made me so happy that it's on a stage, on a platform that so many people are seeing it. This sounds very preachy, but just getting to see something unlike anything I've ever seen before is a gift. And Michael R. Jackson and Broadway and the producers gave that to me and to everyone.
No, I kind of agree. I feel like anytime you can challenge the system and it works and it's successful, is like a win.
Explicitly challenge it.
Yes, it's a complete win. So if that, again, as I said, like inspires other people to write and challenge the system further, then like even one day on Broadway was enough, you know?
And seeing that it can make money, you know, hopefully this is showing other producers, take a chance, or this thing that you think is a little bit
oh my God, sorry.
or a little bit challenging, it can do it.
I was going to say, we didn't even talk about all of the celebrities that were behind this musical.
Oh, who produced it? Who produced it? Tell us.
Well, EGOT winner herself, Miss Jennifer Hudson.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit of a cop-out when you EGOT off of a producer credit, but that's just me.
That's rude to Whoopi Goldberg and John Legend. Okay?
Well, oh my God, Pasek and Paul were producers on this? Did we know that?
I feel like I did look that up at one point.
Okay, I am
Amazing.
on the IBDB of
You
A
know
Strange
what?
Loop.
Stephen... No.
Oh.
Stephen Brackett? Does he know
Yes.
them?
Yes. Does he?
How does he know them?
Maybe
Maybe he doesn't know them. Never mind. Whoop.
Why does Stephen Brackett sound like someone that directed Dear Evan Hansen, even though I know it was Michael Drive?
But he doesn't. But he didn't. He didn't do
what
that.
Did Stephen Brackett direct? Was it The Lightning Thief?
It was The Lightning Thief, and it was also...
You know what? Those two shows also the exact same. The Lightning Thief and A Strange Loop are the same show.
You're right. They really challenged the audience in the same way. Okay?
Also, which was exciting, Charlie Rosen, I think, is the musical director, who is very young and did Be More Chill. So he's in the, like, Joe Iconis family. So I remember during Tony time, so many people were, like, cheering him on because another one that's, like, is this a strange fit for this? Maybe. I don't know. Stephen Brackett also seems kind of like a strange fit for this.
But he was with the project for a really long time, I feel.
Yeah, he was.
From very early.
Yeah.
And kind of like before he'd done Be More Chill, before he'd done all these other shows, he was involved in A Strange Loop.
Okay, back to the producer credits. So Pasek and Paul, which I feel like I'm learning for the first time today.
Random.
RuPaul, we knew.
Amazing.
Alan Cumming. Did we know that?
I didn't. Fantastic.
Jennifer Hudson, obviously, EGOT. Mindy Kaling. And
fantastic.
I'm trying to see if there's anyone else here other than the last person I see. Oh,
like
Don
famous.
Cheadle.
Don Cheadle.
Wow. Okay, Don Cheadle. Mark Platt, obviously.
Yeah,
And then the last person on this list is Billy Porter, who I'd like to announce I saw walking in the streets of Toronto.
I knew that. You texted me. And
no, I voice noted you, didn't I?
You did. You voice noted me.
I was driving home from work, and I was like,
where was I?
Hi. I'm driving right now, but I just need to let you know that I think I saw Billy Porter walking on Queen Street.
I was out, and I didn't get to listen to it till hours later, and I was like, I can't believe Tara sent me a voice note. Like, we save those for very dramatic moments.
The first time I did it was for MJ, which, like, correct. The next time you did it was for Between the Lines. Correct. And then I did it for Billy Porter because I was driving and I wanted to be safe. And then we did find out on Instagram that he was filming in Toronto.
Him. He was directing something.
He looked fabulous, and no one recognized him except for me. And I was driving, so I couldn't even stop.
Didn't you say he was dressed the way you would expect Billy Porter to be dressed?
Yeah, he had like the big like over-ear AirPods, which that's how I knew. I was like, this is someone famous because those are very expensive. And then he was wearing like, is it called like a muumuu?
Yeah, like a full like arms out, full like
yes, but like with a
fabric.
Very bright pattern. So I was like, no one else but Billy Porter would wear this.
No one else has the
a legend.
confidence.
You know what? Queen Street West, for anyone that lives in Toronto, is sometimes a hub. I also saw the guy that plays Harry Potter and Cursed Child in Toronto walking on Queen Street West.
Well, he just like lives here.
I'm sure he does, but I was like, I think that's Harry Potter. And then you know what drove by immediately? The Mirvish Harry Potter bus.
The Harry Potter bus.
Oh, if only those tour guides knew, that would have actually been a moment.
Like, and there's
Harry Potter
himself. Wasn't he with like a stroller or something?
Yeah, he was with a stroller and a baby.
Adorable.
That was a text. I didn't voice note you that. It wasn't as dramatic.
That wasn't voice note required.
Yeah, not worthy. Okay, let's rate A Strange Loop and then let's move on to Obsessions.
Okay, let's go. I mean, it's hard. I think this is a really hard show to rate because it is like kind of incomparable. But let's be bold. Let's go 5 out of 5. The little like usher hats he wears. The usher hats?
Yeah.
You know, the little like red hats?
Yeah.
5 out of 5. Let's go bold.
I'm not going to go as bold, and I will go a half step lower and give it 4.5 out of 5 Tyler Perry's.
Tyler Perry's himself.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry writes real life.
Will Tyler Perry see A Strange Loop? I hope at some point, but he has not been there yet. There's a Twitter account.
But I think he has texted Michael R. Jackson about it to congratulate.
Yes.
He has a good attitude about it.
He has a great attitude towards it, but there is a specific Twitter account that is like waiting for Tyler Perry to go. I think it's like Tyler Perry sees a strange loop is literally what the handle is. And
he's not going.
Every so often they tweet being like, not today.
No. He's not going to go. Sorry. Today. I just don't see it happening. I just don't foresee it.
No. And I don't think he needs to. I think that's no. Fine.
He's aware of it, and that's enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Has Scott Rudin seen it?
Definitely not. But he should see it.
Yeah. That should be his comeback. I actually would be on the journey to forgiveness for Scott Rudin if he actually paid to keep A Strange Loop open for one extra year and sat in the audience.
You heard it
Scott
here
Rudin,
first.
You heard it here first.
Scott Rudin, balls in your court. And with that being said, it is now time for our obsession of the week.
I actually wanted to correct that would be the journey to forgiveness for Scott Rudin. It wouldn't be complete forgiveness. I would be ready to begin forgiving Scott Rudin. Okay, he would.
You were eating up your obsession time, right?
Sorry. Okay, my obsession. Tara, do you know about karaoke?
Karaoke, like Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson on her talk show.
Of course, I know about karaoke.
Sings a cover every episode of her talk show.
This is the campaign to get Kelly to Broadway.
It is the campaign to get Kelly to Broadway, and she campaigned hard by singing I think a little bit unexpected song. She sang a few weeks ago, "Losing My Mind" from Stephen Sondheim's
How did
Follies.
I know that this was going to be your obsession this week? I literally saw this on Twitter weeks ago and was like, Steph is banking this for an obsession.
I take screenshots of things and I save them. And
I haven't listened to it yet, though. I didn't listen to it.
I mean, she's the best. She's a star. She's amazing. A beautiful song that is loved. She tragically did not remove her wig at the end of it because she wasn't wearing one. Otherwise, she definitely would have. She has never seen that video. She's never seen that video.
But she should see that video.
She should. Kelly, I'm going to send it to you. No, she sounds amazing. She sounds wonderful. It's a very like subtle performance from Kelly. Sometimes Kelly goes like over the top. And sounds amazing. But no, this is a really good, like, kind of subtle performance of her singing "Losing My Mind" from Stephen Sondheim's Follies. And I love to hear a cover of a musical theater song, not necessarily by a musical theater person, and get to hear that, like, more pop interpretation and see what they, like, pick out from the lyrics or what they emphasize. I think it's always interesting to hear those lyrics, especially Sondheim's lyrics, from new eyes and with a new perspective. And I think she's a great interpreter. Even like her "It's Quiet Uptown," like beautiful. Yes. Like she's working. She knows how to interpret music, and this is no different.
Did I send you that tweet that I can't remember who said it, that said they should stunt cast her as Anne Hathaway and Juliet?
Maybe.
I don't know.
That's a lot. She could do it. She could sing it, but it's a lot of acting for her. And I don't know if From Justin to Kelly really showed all her strengths.
It's funny you said that because I recently watched Olivia Wilde's interview on Kelly Clarkson talking about Don't Worry, Darling, and Kelly was talking about Harry and Harry Styles and how he's a musician, and she was like, how do you like working with musicians? And she was like, I love working with musicians because they're like so committed, and it always like translates on screen. And Kelly's like, did you see From Justin to Kelly? It did not translate on screen. So she knows. I feel like Kelly knows her strengths and knows her weaknesses. And I appreciate that.
She's 100% herself at all times, and I don't know if that lends it to being an actor, you know? It lends it to being a wonderful performer of songs, but...
What about a Kelly Clarkson jukebox?
Okay,
we're calling it Miss Independent.
Miss Independent, okay. I think it's about
That's the title.
A young, sheltered girl who wins a singing competition and is launched to fame.
Wait, why hasn't this happened? I feel like this is a very, like, relevant topic and could be turned into a musical.
Right.
Okay. I'm copywriting the title right now.
Miss Independent.
Buying the domain. Yeah.
Okay, and then, like, the kind of 11 o'clock number is my favorite Kelly Clarkson song, "Walk Away."
Wow.
You know? At the end of, like, 2/3 of the way through the show, 2/3 of the way through Act 2, you know, she's, like, to an ex, to her agent, to a songwriter, to Clive Davis. She's like, "Walk away."
Is this before or after Behind These Hazel Eyes?
Oh, wow.
We're really going deep.
I think Behind These Hazel Eyes is in Act 1. Here I am once again.
But you know what's definitely in Act 2, like 2 songs before the finale? Because of You.
Because of, yeah. That we're heightening the emotions. Where's like a Breakaway? I think that's Act 2 opener. I'll spread my wings and
it's giving Glee though.
I know. What and then the encore is obviously a moment like this.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Like fireworks going, confetti.
Honestly,
confetti.
She's got a really good catalog that I feel like in a few years from now we could do this.
Let's go.
But Miss Independent is the title.
Piece by piece. Piece by piece.
Oh my god, wow, literally Kelly has so many bangers. We always forget. We always think about like
you're right.
the standard like jukebox musicals or like bio musicals. We never think about Kelly Clarkson, and today we're telling you that you should think about Kelly Clarkson.
It's a long tangent.
Wow.
Kelly,
it's a long tangent.
Musical.
Yeah.
Tara, what's your obsession this week?
My obsession this week is an oldie but a goodie. It's not a new song. It's also a show that we've talked about many times before. But for some reason, whenever I drive to work, I always put my phone on shuffle on the downloaded music. And the song that repeatedly plays every single day, sometimes twice a day, is Meant to Be Yours from Heathers. And I know that you love this song. I also love this song. But I just want to talk about like the acting performance that Ryan McCartan is giving on this cast recording. Yes. Because it is truly unmatched. And we always say this, and we still don't have it. The Heathers bootleg that exists on the internet does not have Ryan McCartan. So we've never seen his like JD in its full glory. But I just think like, what would it have been like to watch him record that song in the recording studio? Because he is giving 10,000% and he doesn't need to. Like, it's so good.
His JD is unhinged on that cast recording. It's so good. And JD, he walks the line of being hot and insane, you know?
Yes.
And I think Ryan McCartan delivers on that.
Yeah, he definitely does. It's interesting because like I've obviously listened to that song so much over the years, but it wasn't until I listened to it every day for like 3 weeks straight that I really truly appreciated the acting performance that he's giving. Like if you are looking,
because it's dialogue,
but like in a cast recording, but yet I can see like every movement that he would be doing. It's like, honestly, if you're looking for like a masterclass on a cast recording of a performance, go listen to Meant to Be Yours, because the whole section, that Veronica section, and then also when he's like making the like noises of the bomb, I'm like, you're insane. You are insane. And I love it. Yeah. And also like,
this is when he tips over to insane.
Yeah. And then also at the same time, you're like, I understand why Veronica would die for you, because like maybe I would too, you know?
It's so true. You know, every time we've seen Heathers, we've seen like a university production of it, and then we saw like a regional production of it. You know, okay, so actually when we saw the regional production of it, I wasn't like as obsessed with the...
You were obsessed with the Guelph JD.
The Guelph JD, he isn't even... I wonder,
the university production of Heathers JD.
I was like,
Steph was obsessed with him.
We need to find him on Facebook.
And you know what? His Meant to Be Yours, pretty good.
Hot.
Pretty good.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. No, the JD, if you do it right, the audience should fall in love with him and should like empathize with Veronica's situation.
Yes. You know who's another good example? The guy that did it on the West End. His name is like escaping me right now. Moscato?
Jamie Moscato?
He also, but he went like full creepy, I think, which is great. You gotta go. There are many, as you said, like levels to JD, and you have to hit every single one for a successful performance. And
you gotta do that like charming freeze your brain moment to like get you to
this
Meant to Be Yours at the end.
So really what this obsession is like go listen to the entire Heathers cast recording, because it's truly so great, but specifically Meant to Be Yours and Ryan McCartan's full out acting performance on that 4-minute song.
Yes. I always listen to the Broadway one or the off-Broadway one and never the West End one.
Yeah, me
because Blue. I want it.
Yeah. And also
I prefer it.
We don't love I Can't Say No or Say No or whatever it's called.
I Say No. Not I Say No.
Sorry, I Say No. I don't love it. It's fine to
it's
me.
fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not giving. Yeah.
And that wraps up our thoughts on A Strange Loop and also our obsession of the week. And speaking of Harry Potter, our next episode is the deep dive into Cursed Child. And a small teaser. I am ready to drag this show.
We're ready. I have a lot of feelings. It's hard to we got to collect them. We got to be ready to discuss
exactly
what happened with that show.
I know, because you have seen it twice now, so I feel like
I've seen the 2-part version and the 1-part version.
Yeah.
I do. I have many thoughts. I do have many thoughts.
So that is our next episode. You'll hear that in a couple weeks from now. And it will also be Halloween that day. So it feels very fitting when you listen to that episode. And if you want to listen to any of our other episodes, you can do that by subscribing to our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we really appreciate it if you left us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Off2BOA Podcast with the number 2.
And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.